noches. Welcome to the Hispanic Leaders Group closing event of the Hispanic Heritage Observance Month. A special night when the Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis, friends and colleagues, come together to honor and recognize the winner of the Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza Hope Award, our highest recognition award. We are glad and honored that all of you are here with us this evening. Bienvenidos. I am Javier Orozco, and I will be your MC for this evening. While I am relatively new to St. Louis, my own commitment to our Hispanic community started much earlier. Currently, I serve as the Executive Director of Intercultural and Interreligious Affairs for the Catholic Archdiocese of St. Louis. And in this role, I get to collaborate with other Hispanic-friendly organizations in the area. At this time, I ask that you secure your cell phones by setting them in silence. Let's take a moment. We all have them. This is an evening where we call upon God to shower his blessings among all of us as we recognize a leader in our community whose efforts never go unnoticed. We honor a friend whose influence, impact, and contributions to our community are truly remarkable. I ask that we take a moment to listen to our spirits as we commence with the invocation. Dios de la vida, God of life, your grace is abundant in every nation and peoples. Today, we see your glory in Father Ricardo, el Padre Ricardo, and his ministry. Tu gloria ahora presente en la pastoral de nuestro querido Padre Ricardo. Dios de la esperanza, God of hope, tu pasión se manifiesta en nuestra entrega a los demás. We gather in hope, seeking to be women and men for others, serving those in need and embracing those rejected. Que nuestro servicio nos brinde unidad en la diversidad. Dios de la acción, take our hearts, hands, and feet, and lead us to your justice, peace, and reconciliation. Que nuestro pan que compartimos en esta mesa se multiplique en nuestros barrios, familias y hogares. Dios de la gracia, God of pure grace, bless our tables of fellowship. Bendice nuestra convivencia. Bless our common journey. Bendice nuestro caminar hacia ti. And we say, Amen. I'd like to invite Guillermo to come forward, and please rise and join me in honoring our nation by placing our right hand over our hearts and together sing our national anthem.
Good evening. Before we do that, how many times have we always sang the national anthem without really thinking where it all began? So I'm going to take maybe a minute and a half. On September 13th, 1814, Francis Scott Key visited the British fleet in Chesapeake Bay to secure the release of Dr. William Beans, who had been captured after the burning of Washington, D.C. The release was secured, but Key was detained on ship overnight during the shelling of Fort McHenry, one of the forts defending Baltimore. In the morning, he was so delighted to see the American flag still flying over the fort that he began a poem to commemorate the occasion. First published under the title, Defense of Fort McHenry, the poem soon attained wide popularity as sung to the tune To Anacreon in Heaven. The origin of this tune is obscure, but it may have been written by John Stafford Smith, a British composer born in 1750. The Star-Spangled Banner was officially made the national anthem by Congress in 1931, although it already had been adopted as such by the Army and the Navy. And we sing, "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last streaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare that upbursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave."
Thank you, Guillermo, and let's all have a seat. As we begin this beautiful celebration, let me call to the podium an energetic leader of our community, the chair of the Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis, Jaime Torres.
Remember, I'm old. When I was younger, my height was 6'5". Since I'm 73, 5'6". Buenas noches, good evening. As a chair for the Hispanic Leaders Group, I thank you for attending this incredible event. Every year, the Hispanic Leaders Group recognize and celebrate an individual that through the years have contributed to our community. Also, Hispanic Leaders Group scheduled this event to close the celebration of the National Hispanic Heritage Observance. During the National Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize the contributions made and the important presence of Hispanics, Latino, and adopted Latinos, Americans, to the United States and celebrate their heritage and culture. Hispanics have a profound and positive influence in our country through their strong commitment to family, faith, hard work, and service. They have enhanced and shaped our national character with century-old traditions that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of the community. Hispanic Heritage Month, whose roots back to 1968, began its year for September 15, the anniversary of independence of Latin American countries like Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, Chile, and Belize, and also include Columbus Day's Dia de la Raza, October 12th. Today, 55 million people, or 17% of the American population, are Hispanics or Latino origin. This represents a significant increase from 2000, which registered the Hispanic population in those days, 35 million or 13% of the population. Share in this special annual tribute by learning and celebrating the generations of Hispanics and Latino Americans who have positively influenced and enriched our nation and society. And this evening, we celebrate the recognition of an adopted Latino who has contributed tremendously to our community. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Jaime, for those wonderful words. I would like to recognize contributors, leaders, friends, and colleagues in our audience. And if you are here as I call your name, please rise so that we can acknowledge you, your presence. Of course, Father Richard or Padre Ricardo Vogt, the reason why we are here. Representing the Office of St. Louis County Executive, Ms. Maddie Moore. Joining us later will be also representing St. Louis City Mayor Francis Lay, J.T. Johnson. And of course we have our pastor of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Ferguson, Missouri, Father John O'Brien. The President and CEO of the International Institute, Ana Crossland. Jorge Rio Pedre, Executive Director, President of Casa de Salud. Eileen Wolfington from Kingdom House and the 2013 recipient of the Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza. Gilbert Bailon, the editor of St. Louis Post-Dispatch, will be accompanying us, and with a reporter as well. Our friend Karen Aresti, St. Louis Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League. And especially, of course, we also want to recognize the board of the Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis, Jaime Torres, Chair, Linda Mertz, Recording Secretary, Guillermo Rodriguez, the 2010 APA Premio Esperanza recipient, who's now Correspondent Secretary, and the directors, Maria Maldonado, Elena Kenyon, Rush Robinson, Sal Valadez, and of course, Inés Sandoval. Let us take a moment to also acknowledge and recognize Bob Fox and Maxine Charitable Foundation, Raj and Leila Robinson, and other individuals, companies, and institutions whose sponsorship and financial assistance made this event possible. As you peruse through our printed program, you will see them and their names listed. Let us together say muchas gracias to all of them. And of course, we must highlight the important contributions of many volunteers whose dedication and time and love make this event possible. In particular, Jaime Torres, Chairman of the Planning Committee, Elena Garcia Kenyon, Marta Castellanos, Linda Mertz, Dinora Bomarito, Guillermo Rodriguez, Maria Maldonado, Sal Valadez, and Arturo Lagmer. Thank you, sponsors and collaborators. I want to recognize the musicians who have and will continue to provide music during our event and friends of our community, led by Hector Molina and Thor Anderson and Juan Quesada, Son Montuno Trio. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you. To all of you, bon appetit. Dinner will be served shortly. In the meantime, please enjoy the music of Son Montuno Trio. Thank you. We feel live, and I wanted just to take a moment to acknowledge that in our midst we are also celebrating a very particular and a special birthday for Guillermo. I hope he's here with us. Guillermo, will you stand up for us? Today he turned 22 years old, so we want to sing happy birthday to Guillermo on this special day. Together we say, happy birthday to you, happy birthday. Thank you. So now we know that we are a spicy culture, we are a festive culture, but we are also a very poetic culture, and poetry is also in our hearts. I would at this moment invite Elena Kenyon, who is going to share with us a poem entitled Encouragement. Elena, thank you for gracing us with the poem.
The greatest fulfillment in life is serving others. This poem is created by St. Francis of Assisi, best exemplifies Father Ricardo's beliefs. Encouragement. Where there is hatred in this world, let us bring love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. May we always try to understand, not just be understood. Hope to console, as well as to be consoled. Try to love, not just to be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, in serving others that we find our deepest fulfillment, in setting aside our focus on self, that we find the true meaning of life. We truly appreciate the contributions of Father Ricardo to St. Louis community. Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Elena, for that wonderful poetic expression. At this moment also, we will be entertained by Grupo Folclórico Calypso, Brianna Harrison and Alondra Ramirez, a Mexican traditional dance group that encapsulates the sounds and the footwork of Mexico. They will be performing Huapango. Huapango means on top of wood in Nahuatl, and it signifies a dance that is executed on a wooden platform. It's believed that the dance emerged from the coast of Veracruz with the arrival of the Iberian population, resulting in a fusion of European, indigenous, and African musicality. Please welcome Grupo Folclórico Calypso. At this point, I would like to invite Jaime Torres to the podium to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker for the evening. Jaime.
Anna Crosling has led the International Institute of St. Louis since 1978. Founded in 1919, the International Institute is the region's welcome center for new Americans. The Institute's three pillars of service are immersion, investment, and inclusion. More than 7,500 immigrants from 80 countries receive services including English classes, refugee resettlement, job placement, business development, and career path services. Anna has been instrumental in the founding and operation of the St. Louis Mosaic Project, a nationally recognized multi-sector led immigration attraction initiative. She was the recipient of the 2012 Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza from our organization. Ana also has leadership awards from the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, World Trade Center, YWCA, and Focus St. Louis. In June 2015, she was recognized as a White House Champion of Change for World Refugee Day. Ana has 2 honorary doctorates, one from Webster University and another from Washington University, her alma mater. Let's warmly welcome Ana Crossley.
Good evening. I want to express my gratitude, first of all, to the Planning Committee of the Hispanic Leaders Group for inviting me to speak this evening. It's a special honor to given the exceptional caliber of the Esperanza awardee this evening, Father Richard Vogt. The Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza Award is such a fitting recognition for Padre Ricardo. He epitomizes what is welcoming about our region. He gives of himself to ensure that others have religious fellowship and peace. I knew and was very fond of Tony Ramirez, after which the Esperanza Award is named. He was one of the first of the local ethnic community leaders I met. It was probably as early as my appointment, which, as Jaime mentioned, was in 1978, almost 38 years ago. In the early years, I worked with Tony frequently on various Hispanic initiatives. Among them, the founding of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which was a favorite of his, along with later the Hispanic Leaders Group. He had a wry sense of humor and a self-effacing but extremely can-do attitude. And he gave countless hours to promote the well-being of those of Hispanic ancestry in our region. He was a very good man. So it was with a special honor that I, in 2012, received the Esperanza Award from the HLG in Tony's name. And it's an added honor then to speak this evening. This evening, your august chair, Jaime Ramirez, has asked me to reflect for a few minutes on volunteerism in recognition of our awardee. Now, this isn't a natural subject that I speak about, and so it isn't my usual on and on about multiculturalism. It's something a little bit different. But it is indeed an especially fitting topic given Padre Ricardo's long and faithful ministry in the Hispanic community. And I even discovered, talking with him at the table before I came up here, that back in the early 1980s, he volunteered at the International Institute. So there are many, many connections that I have with Padre Ricardo over and above, obviously, what he's been doing in the Hispanic community. But going back then to the subject of volunteerism, first, I want to share some details about how widespread and profoundly impactful volunteerism is in this nation. Volunteerism remains a huge and irreplaceable component of how we help one another. It's the ultimate in people helping people. That's because volunteers perform such services without monetary compensation, enabling our community to do much more with less. A 2015 report from the independent sector identifies 62.8 million volunteers giving nearly 8 billion hours of volunteer services annually in the U.S. Wow. Reports about volunteerism also identify 1.3 million volunteers in Missouri. And it might interest you to know that almost 15% of those volunteer hours are in the religious sector. These individuals assist at their churches, but also minister to the needy through the provision of youth and elderly group work and much, much more. And what about local volunteerism right here in St. Louis? Well, in 2010, Mayor Slay announced that between 2008 and 2009, more than 30% of volunteers in St. Louis had actually, of individuals in St. Louis, residents, had actually volunteered. As a result, St. Louis ranked 10th among 51 largest metropolitan areas on the subject of volunteerism. If you wonder how impressive that is, bear in mind that at the time, the St. Louis region was 18th in the nation. So we did almost double our position. The profile of how residents responded with a commitment to service in the face of an economic crisis which hit St. Louis particularly hard is interesting. St. Louis's volunteer rate at 31% was actually 4.2% above the national average. And in spite of the especially hard-hit nature of the recession here in St. Louis, the number of volunteers actually grew between 2008 and 2009. The most common types of volunteerism in St. Louis had to do with collecting and distributing food, and with fundraising, including church donations. Equally impressive, the volunteer retention rate in St. Louis was almost 70%, compared to 65% nationally. This high level of volunteer activity raises a question about why here in St. Louis? Is there something in the DNA of St. Louisans that results in a higher than average desire to volunteer? What encourages one person to volunteer and not another? Is it the result, at least, of part of a well-established faith-based community? Or is it because the need is so much greater here? Or are we lucky just to live in a region with a strong and historic culture of giving? Perhaps it's all of these reasons and more. Let's take the example of the United Way of Greater St. Louis, especially relevant right now since we're in the middle of their annual campaign. You may not realize it, but the United Way is actually unique among its peers. While our nation is 20th in our metropolitan area compared to others in the country, our United Way campaign is among the largest. It'll raise more than $75 million this year to benefit 170 health and social services agencies. In total, these agencies actually reach 1 out of 3 St. Louisans. You might not even know when you use an agency here in St. Louis that it's indeed part of the United Way. But if you go to the Y and swim, if your children participate in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, if you know someone who has lupus, they're probably attending the Lupus Foundation activities. And even if you know somebody at the International Institute, these are all in part funded by United Way donations. But it isn't just the United Way's annual campaign which is important. They also connect people in need through their 211 referral network, and they engage thousands and thousands of volunteers through their initiatives and those of their member agencies. Indeed, the United Way is a juggernaut when it comes to mobilizing for good in St. Louis. Faith-based networks, also including the annual Catholic Appeal and the Jewish Community Appeal, operate and raise additional millions of dollars here for health, social services, and social justice initiatives. It takes an absolutely huge network of volunteers to ensure the success of such campaigns. We hear about corporate CEOs who lean on their friends and other corporations for donations, but it also takes an army of volunteers operating phone banks, stuffing envelopes, and otherwise ensuring success. These campaigns, however, are a small portion of the vast volunteer efforts from which St. Louis has and continues to benefit. But it's also the singular efforts of individuals which are making a significant difference. Take example, and in fact they're sponsors of tonight's event, philanthropist Bob Fox and his wife Maxine Clark, it's Friday. Bob is also a previous awardee of the Esperanza Award, I believe getting it in 2011, the year before I did. Now in retirement and of comfortable means, neither really has to work again, yet they're both deeply engaged in helping to improve the landscape of education for underserved children in St. Louis. But what I especially want to mention this evening, in case some of you may not know, is Bob's unwavering support for the health and legal needs of underserved Hispanics. Some of you may not realize that without Bob's perseverance, two much lauded and valued local initiatives might never have come into being. I speak of Casa de Salud and the St. Louis Mosaic Project. I suspect in each case it took hundreds of volunteer hours for him to reach the influentials who could eventually make these sort of projects a reality. In the case of the United Way and other network initiatives, and in the case of Bob Fox, and of course Marilyn, they're sterling examples of a strong culture of giving. And we're indeed proud to claim them as part of our community family. Faith also plays a role in creating a strong culture of giving. Padre Ricardo is a shining example among many, many Missouri volunteers. In his case, he's ministered to those in the Hispanic community who seek chances to celebrate their faith. By doing so, he has been welcoming to the stranger, a need that is as great today as ever and is controversial in some sectors of the United States as well. And in fact, I doubt there's anybody in the audience this evening who doesn't give of his or her time to help someone in need or a needy cause at some point during the year, right? So here's my pitch, because of course there always has to be a call to action, right? Yeah, okay. Well, but here's my paper. Okay, we can actually do more. St. Louisans are benefiting from a high level of volunteerism, but more is needed. While the economy has begun to improve locally, the situation is still very hard for many, and increasingly so. The average volunteer in St. Louis presently gives 38 hours a year, barely 3 hours a month. I suspect that the number of volunteer hours that many of us do is greater than that. So how do we increase our impact without going into overload? It means, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's dark in here and I have things a little bit messed up, but here we go. I've been considering options on how to be able to do that. And believe me, there needs to be a focus on volunteerism, at least a part of it that's a little bit different than what's happening now. My inclination in the face of need is simply to do more. but there's never enough time to fill all the need. And I worry, what will happen when I'm no longer there to help fill that need? So I think I need to work harder to recruit, mentor, and encourage others to be leaders of the future. And I doubt that there's anyone in the audience, and that means developing volunteer fellowships which result in value for a student and address a need. It means considering new and different ways to operate, and it can certainly mean giving up power and control along the way. But if and we do so, and we do it right, everyone benefits. The millennial generation is now the same size as the baby boomers. We're getting old, and they're so very young. So we need to identify more ways to engage young people in the work that we've been doing so very long. Thus, the initiatives we have started and the organizations that we operate will live on long after we move to a well-deserved retirement or on to another project. So on this evening, as we're celebrating Father Padre Ricardo's meaningful work among the needy, let's also consider how we can help more as well. No one can be successful in a vacuum. Just as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. I would add, one volunteer's effort is multiplied by the assistance of others. Let's be the others who help Padre Ricardo and so many St. Louisans create a better and stronger community. And let's seek ways to draw even more supporters to our cause. Best wishes and good evening.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Ana, for your insightful remarks and, of course, for your ongoing commitment to our Hispanic community as well. We thank you so much, and again, a round of applause for you. Thank you again, Ana. Gracias. And we welcome Guillermo Rodriguez, who will share with us a little bit about the Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza. Guillermo?
Gracias. A number of decades ago, I was born. Can you believe it? It's 40 pico. That means that it's more than 40. Anna, thank you very much for those inspiring words about being a volunteer. And now I ask Jaime, where is where I have to stay? It's right here. Okay. This is serious. Esto es serio. The Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza is clearly stated in today's printed program. You have the basic information there. This is an award that conveys the community's thanks to a person who throughout the years has unselfishly supported programs and activities for the betterment of the community. This is the highest recognition from the Hispanic Leaders Group. Every year, the task of bestowing the recognition becomes more and more difficult because within our region, we are noticing many individuals who sincerely are contributing to many causes impacting our community and the community at large. We have witnessed a greater involvement in services to the community, more events demanding expressions of our art, greater interest in knowing our varied cultures, increased interest in contributing to educational programs to benefit our youth, the fastest growing youth in the whole nation, and countless efforts to highlight human rights matters among our people. This, as in other years, the selection was not easy, and I was part of that committee. Not easy because each of the nominees was worthy of the recognition. But at the end, we were certain that our community could not wait one more year to bestow this award to the 2016 recipient of the Premio Esperanza Anthony B. Ramírez. Javier, gracias.
Thank you, Guillermo, for reminding us and lifting up again the meaningful award that we are celebrating this evening. At this moment, I would like to invite Elena Kenyon to introduce our honored guest. Elena?
Affectionately known as Padre Ricardo, this Jesuit priest epitomized a humble servant of God. Padre Ricardo was ordained in 1963 in Mexico City, where he studied for 4 years. His journey of learning the Spanish language was inspired by a former Spanish teacher who was a Guatemalan Catholic priest. Father described himself as a teacher, a preacher, and a listener. For the past 5 years, Father, he retired. Padre Ricardo has devoted his life toward volunteering tirelessly in the following ways. He performs religious service on Sundays and provides sacramental ministry at several churches, such as Our Lady of Guadalupe in Ferguson, Immaculate Conception in Arnold, Holy Trinity Church in St. Anne, St. Charles Borromeo in St. Charles, and St. Joseph's in Manchester. To perform God's work, no place is too near or far for this man. His mastery at meeting people where they are in a kind and caring manner has led him to also perform masses within the Portuguese-speaking community in San Luis. Immigrants from Cherán, Michoacán, have invited him exclusively to celebrate an annual Mass during one of their feast days. Father has organized between 6 and 8 scriptures study groups. He has a prison ministry where he visits Hispanic prisoners. Father's knowledge of many topics has afforded him opportunities to appear on Reverend Wright's TV program, speak during various radio interviews on La Que Buena, 1510 AM, and write articles for the local Spanish language newspapers, Red Latina and El Hispano. For almost 3 years, Father voluntarily provides spiritual counseling and direction at Casa de Salud. Father Ricardo Alamos also received numerous invitations to bless people's homes or to visit individuals in the hospital. He demonstrates unconditional love to all. One of the greatest statements expressed to him was, "You have changed. You have changed my life." Father gives hope to everyone in his path. He enjoys providing spiritual direction, which he prefers to call reflection. Folks that seek his help or guidance are oftentimes seeking change but don't know how to go about it. Father is a pillar in the immigrant community who welcomes the stranger. He relentlessly seeks resources for all who call upon him seeking help. As an unsung hero working in the low-income immigrant communities, Father deserves the 2016 Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza. His unselfish labor of love has improved the quality of life for many and provided them with hope. Hope for a better future and a better life for their families. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Father Ricardo, Father Richard Bow.
I have a formal letter I want to share with all of you from the Ann Wagner, member of Congress. And before I do that, I just want to take a very brief moment before reading the letter on behalf of the Archdiocese also of St. Louis to just say to Padre Ricardo, I think you know we love you, te queremos. Many times in our Hispanic Pastoral Leaders Group meetings, we wonder, how do you do it? Do you bilocate? Do you trilocate? And I say that with real sincerity on behalf of some of the Hispanic pastoral leaders who are here with us this evening to honor you. We are deeply, deeply agradecidos. El pueblo te quiere. El pueblo te quiere. And we want you with us por 100 años más, okay? 100 more years. So let me read to you, Padre, and to all of us the letter that Ann Wagner said to us. Dear Father Vogt, congratulations on receiving this Hispanic Leaders Group's 2016 Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza Award. This honor reflects your years of devoted public service for the betterment of the Hispanic community. In all of your varied endeavors, you have exemplified the legacy of Anthony B. Ramirez, founder of the Hispanic Leaders Group. Whether performing Mass in area churches, ministering to prisoners, or leading study groups, you give hope to all you meet. Your tireless, unselfish labor has improved the quality of life for many in the Hispanic community and beyond. The counsel and spiritual direction you provide through Casa de Salud is an immeasurable blessing to those who receive it. It is my honor to recognize such a humble and caring man. And it is my privilege to serve an unsung hero such as yourself in the U.S. House of Representatives. You are truly an asset to the St. Louis community, and we are fortunate to have you here. May God bless you in all your endeavors. Sincerely, Ann Wagner, Member of Congress. Thank you. At this point, we'd like to invite Father John O'Brien to come and share a few words with us as well.
quiero ofrecerles unas palabras en español, porque ya hemos escuchado muchas en inglés. Y como dice Celia Cruz, my English is not very good looking. Y también estas palabras vienen del corazón de los muchos feligreses de nuestras parroquias. Así es, Padre Ricardo. Es un honor poder ofrecer unas palabras de reconocimiento al ganador del premio Anthony B. Ramírez 2016. Father Richard Vogt, o mejor conocido y querido por muchos simplemente como Padre Ricardo. Hay muchas cualidades que podríamos subrayar acerca del Padre Ricardo, pero ya que no tienen 3 días seguidos para escucharme, me voy a limitar a mencionar solo 2 de ellas. En primer lugar, se ha dicho que el Padre Ricardo tiene un don muy especial. Ha habido muy pocos santos que han tenido este don en particular y por lo tanto necesitamos entender que hay que ser santo o muy afortunado para poseer este don. Aparentemente este don le permite al Padre Ricardo viajar y moverse donde quiera para servir al pueblo. Él se desplaza de un evento a otro, de una iglesia a otra para celebrar la misa, de la cárcel a la casa de retiro, de bendecir una casa para visitar a alguien en el hospital, todo en su intento de encontrarse con estas personas y consolarlas con la presencia de Cristo. Amén. Y sabemos que cuando se trata de servir a los latinos, el Padre Ricardo se apresura aún más. A menudo, cuando recibo una llamada para urgir a alguien en el hospital, me precipito al hospital solo para darme cuenta de que el Padre Ricardo ya me ganó. Por lo que debemos suponer que o el Padre Ricardo posee el don de la bilocación o el don de un carro muy rápido. De lo que no hay duda es que el Padre Ricardo tiene un gran celo sacerdotal y un cariño sincero por la gente hispana. En segundo lugar, el Padre tiene un profundo efecto en las personas a las que sirve. No hace mucho tiempo participé en un grupo de compartimiento de la fe con mis feligreses en Guadalupe. A cada persona se le permitió hablar sobre su propia fe y el viaje de familia que le llevó a Guadalupe. Un señor compartió que le debía su crecimiento en la fe al Padre Ricardo. Habló de este sacerdote con tal ternura que, conmovido, no pudo continuar su testimonio. Ese hombre era simplemente uno de los muchos que han sido cambiados, levantados, liberados, apoyados y amados por el Padre Ricardo. Y me dije a mí mismo en ese momento, ser llamado Padre es un privilegio y he aquí uno que le hace honor al nombre. Gracias, Padre Ricardo, por su ejemplo de paternidad, por su dedicación a cada persona, especialmente los más necesitados de aliento, de esperanza, de consuelo, de guía, de compasión, de amor. Gracias por caminar con nosotros a lo largo de nuestro recorrido de fe, especialmente durante los momentos difíciles. Que Dios le conceda mucha salud y muchos años más para seguir ayudando a este cura de Guadalupe y seguir sirviendo fiel y amorosamente a cuantos el Señor le confíe en su ministerio sacerdotal. Muchísimas felicidades.
Muchas gracias al Padre también por sus palabras. Thank you, Father, for your kind and generous words. I'd like to invite Maddie Moore to come forward from St. Louis County Representative to present a proclamation to Padre Ricardo. Maddie Moore, thanks for being here. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of County Executive Stinger, who regrets he could not be here, I am honored to be here, and I want to thank my dear friend Jaime for inviting the County Executive to be here to present a proclamation, and I am delighted to present it on his behalf to such a well-deserving servant, Father Padre Ricardo Vogt. Proclamation from St. Louis County, whereas in 1983, the goal of several local Hispanic leaders to address issues affecting the Hispanic community was achieved by creating the Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis, which continues to support the ever-growing Hispanic population in St. Louis County, Missouri, and the surrounding area. And whereas the Hispanic Leaders Group recognizes and supports community leaders who excel because of their contributions to the Hispanic community and the region. And whereas Father Richard Padre Ricardo Vogt has been awarded the 2016 Anthony B. Ramirez Prima Esperanza, the Hope Award by the Hispanic Leaders Group because of his passion, drive, dedication, professional excellence, and selfishness, as he has worked tirelessly for the betterment of the Hispanic community. And whereas Padre Ricardo is an individual of modest means who understands the struggle of an immigrant community and has served honorably by visiting individuals in the hospital, blessing homes, organizing many scripture study groups, and visiting Hispanics in his prison ministry. And for 3 years has provided spiritual counseling and direction to Casa de Salud. And whereas Padre Ricardo has reached many through articles written for local Spanish language newspapers, Red Latino and El Hispano, and his appearances on Reverend Rice's TV program, and various interviews on the La Que Bueno 1550 AM, and whereas Padre Ricardo is an excellent representative and a strong, supportive voice and a positive, dynamic, and influential leader in the Hispanic community and beyond. Now, therefore, I, Stephen V. Stinger, St. Louis County Executive, congratulate Padre Ricardo on his achievements and do hereby proclaim October 14, 2016 as Father Ricardo Padre Ricardo Vote Day. Honorable Stephen B. Stevens.
Thank you, Maddie Moore, for your support and your presence in our Hispanic community as well. At this point, we'd like to invite Linda Mertz, who will also read the proclamation from the City of St. Louis. Linda.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. On behalf of the Office of the Mayor of the City of St. Louis, I'd like to read the proclamation. Whereas the Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis recognizes and supports community leaders who excel because of their contributions to the Hispanic community and the region with the Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza Award. And whereas HLG's winner of the 2016 Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza Hope Award is Padre Ricardo Vogt, whose passion, drive, dedication, professional excellence, and selflessness, and the hundreds of hours he has volunteered for the betterment of the Hispanic community is well known and deserving of recognition. And whereas Padre Ricardo, a Jesuit priest, epitomizes a humble servant of God when he was ordained in 1963 in Mexico City, where he studied for 4 years. His journey of learning the Spanish language, became a teacher, a preacher, a listener, and was inspired by a Guatemalan Catholic priest, Spanish teacher. And whereas Padre Ricardo is an excellent representative and a strong and supportive voice in support of the Hispanic community, facilitates harmonious and diverse relationships, and is a positive, untiring, dynamic, energetic, and influential person who focuses his lively, vibrant, and loving Hispanic energy and resources to serve not only the Hispanic community, but the community at large. And whereas for the past 5 years, after retiring, Padre Ricardo has devoted his life to volunteering tirelessly to perform religious services on Sundays and provide sacramental ministry at several churches within the St. Louis Archdiocesan community, such as Our Lady of Guadalupe, Immaculate Conception in Arnold, Holy Trinity in St. Anne, St. Charles Borromeo, and St. Joseph's in Manchester. And whereas, as an unsung hero working in the low-income immigrant communities, his unselfish labor of love, he has improved the quality of life for many, and he is providing hope for a better future and a better life for families. And whereas Padre Ricardo is a deserving winner of the Anthony B. Ramirez Premio Esperanza for 2016. Now, therefore, I, Francis G. Slay, Mayor of the City of St. Louis, do hereby proclaim October 14th, 2016 as Father Richard Padre Ricardo Vote Day in the City of St. Louis.
We're going to invite Father Ricardo to say a few words to us, but also at this point we just want to also recognize Marta Castellanos and Elena Kenyon, if they could please come up here to stand as Father addresses us. Both Elena and Marta Elena and Marta, come forward. Both of these women certainly have accompanied in many ways Father Ricardo, but also were instrumental in also making sure that we recognize Father Ricardo. So there are many people, but we wanted just to also thank you both ladies for being instrumental in doing that. And as Father addresses us, Padre, the microphone is yours.
Bueno, antes que nada me dicen Ricardo a secas, porque cuando yo vivía en la Ciudad de México descubrí que nadie podía pronunciar mi apellido, ¿no? Es que por eso soy Ricardo. Este es un momento en que me siento muy agradecido, muy conmovido por la experiencia de recibir este premio, Esperanza Anthony B. Ramírez, y estoy agradecido sobre todo a Marta y a Elena, a Jaime y las muchas personas que forman parte de este grupo, Latin Leadership, Hispanic Leadership Group. Estoy muy agradecido a todos los miembros, a todas las personas que han venido esta noche, ¿verdad? Porque es un honor, es un privilegio ver a tantas personas. Y quisiera mencionar una cosa, que aunque ustedes me digan que yo les he enseñado a ustedes, ustedes me han enseñado a mí. Que yo los he inspirado a ustedes, ustedes me han inspirado a mí. Porque donde quiera que hay amor, siempre es un camino de doble sentido, ¿no es cierto? No, entonces si alguien me preguntara por qué es lo que soy hoy, digo, bueno, lo mejor de lo que es de mi carácter viene en gran parte de esta gran comunidad. Muchas gracias. No he acabado. In case you thought I've always been a priest, although it seems like it, it's not true. Once upon a time, I had another job. 75 years ago, I had a job here in St. Louis selling newspapers. And I used to sell these newspapers at a factory called Wagner Electric. And I would go to Wagner Electric, to what they call the main gate, and pick up the newspapers, and I would go to the back gate and sell them to the workers. And to get there, I'd have to walk along these railroad tracks. So I was walking along one day about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was very cold. It was snowing. And off to one side, there was a freight car, off on the siding. And this is where the people who worked repairing the tracks hung out when they had nothing to do. So this woman leaned out and motioned for me to come up in a language that I didn't understand. So I went up, because back in those days, you know, Mexicans were like Martians, you know, never ran into Mexicans in St. Louis. So she motioned me to come up and said something about food, so I got up there. They sat me down at the table, and they offered me this plate of delicious food. And after I was done, I said, thank you. I said, what is this? And they said, pozole. And I said to myself, young as I was, someday when I grow up, I'm going to go to the land of the pozoles. And I did. 15 years later, I went to Mexico City, the land of the pozoles, and there I studied. And while I was there, people would invite me to their homes to eat. And not only pozole, but that I discovered there were other people besides Mexicans living in Mexico City. And they would invite me into their homes to eat things like arepas and things like arroz con gandules, and right? And so I discovered that there were all kinds of these wonderful things. And I discovered too that when people invited me down, I could sit down at their table with them, that although I didn't know it at the time, I was doing the kind of evangelization, the kind of ministry that Jesus Christ did. Jesus went to his hometown once to preach a homily, and it was so bad that they threw him out and tried to kill him. That's true, read it in Luke. And so after that, he didn't go back to church much. But what he would do is go to people's homes, and he would listen to them. And they'd tell him their stories, sad stories, happy stories. And he would listen to them, he would point out to them how God was present in their lives. And that's what I would do. because I'm always amazed at how present God is in the lives of the people that I visit. And they usually don't know it. And I have to tell them that. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
At this time, we want to call people for, of course, thank you so much, Padre, for all your commitment and your words. And we want to call the people forward for a group photo. So please join us, Maddie Moore and Marta Castellanos, Elena, please, Anna Crossman, please come forward for a group photo. You know, it's one of those wonderful things to do to make sure we have those memories also. So please come forward to join a photo with Father over here in front of the podium, so you don't have to come up in front of the podium, please. Marta and Elena, and please come for the photo. Linda? Where is Marta? Okay. Marta, please get to the photo. Marta, the photo. Okay. We would like to invite also Guillermo and Jaime. We will sing together with all of us. Join in singing God Bless America, so we can have Guillermo and Jaime.
Muchas felicidades, Padre. We're going to honor America again. We did this at the beginning with the singing of the national anthem. And I think it's fitting that we finish this evening by singing God Bless America. I know that many of you know who wrote this, but maybe of you probably don't know. But God Bless America is called an unofficial anthem of the United States. God Bless America. God. Hola, hola. 1, 2, 3. ¿Se oye? Es que hay gente por allá. Okay. Well, God Bless America was written by an immigrant from Siberia. He came to the United States at the age of 5 years. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that is free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love, stand
beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Buenas noches.
Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for sharing these great moments with us. Thank you for your support, and please do not forget that it is essential that you continue to be involved with our community. Have a great night. Muchas gracias y buenas noches.